want to think about something, or I want to tell something to other people, I usually need a text. So tonight I brought with me a text, or even a few, with which I would like to talk about Echad. I chose rather a dark text, not only because the season is dark, and maybe that's the season when people tell, like Muli said in the beginning, people tell themselves dark stories with some kind of a good ending, but also because I come from Israel and we are in a dark period at the moment. These are difficult days. And when the present is difficult, I many times go back to the Jewish bookshelf, to the wisdom of the writers, the thinkers, the fathers, and I try to take advice or think together with them. So the story is going to be of a hero that we all know, Rabbi Akiva, and I'll start with the Jerusalem Talmud. The story begins one night, very early morning, when the Romans are coming to take Rabbi Akiva, that was caught because he was teaching and studying Torah when it was not allowed by the Romans. And I'll read for a minute the Aramaic, and then we'll read the English. Rabbi Akiva havakayam mitdon kometornosrophos הרשע, רחתת אנטה דקריאת שמע, שרי קרי קריאת שמע וגחך. Rabbi Akiva was being tortured before Tornosrophos the wicked. The Aramaic says was being judged by, and the English goes to tortured, so you should learn Hebrew and Aramaic and not trust translations. Rabbi Akiva was being judged by Tornosrophos the wicked. It's the trial that we know that the Romans want to kill the Jews that are studying Torah, and we know that he's one of the 10 Harugei Malchut, the martyrs that were killed because they went on studying Torah and teaching Torah when it was not allowed. So it's the last day of his life, and it's the frightening moment of being judged and knowing that he's going to be killed. He's all alone there. So when the writer is talking about the time is his last day, but the next sentence is the time came for reciting Shema. What's the time for reciting Shema? Like today? Early morning, when the light just begins to come up. So it's the darkness of night. He's wearing what you wear, the convicted wear, that he knows that he's going to be killed, but suddenly the light begins to come out. He began to recite the Shema. We know the Shema Israel. And he is reciting the Shema and he's smiling. So the hangman, the Roman that came to kill him, stops the whole ceremony. He comes with the tools of torture and killing. He stops it and he says, old man, Saba, ich חירש את, היא מבעת בייסורין את. You are either an imbecile or you are contemptuous of suffering. What's happening to you? How come you're smiling? This is one thing the hangman have never seen. He's seen all kinds of things with people that are going to be killed. They never smile. So he stops it and he asks him, what is this? Why are you smiling? And Rabbi Akiva answers him. It's a kind of an amazing dialogue in the middle of this movie that there's a close-up between the victim and the hangman. And he says to him, blast your bones. It's a kind of a swearing. I'm neither an imbecile nor am I contemptuous of suffering, but all my life I read this verse, Shema Israel, and was distressed thinking, when will I fulfill the 3? When will I have the opportunity to really read Shema Israel, not as something that you just say, but as a speech act. בכל ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך, with all my heart, ובכל נפשך, with all my soul, ובכל מאודיך, with everything that I have. The translation says, with all your muchness. The Yerushalmi says, with all my money, with everything that I possess. And I loved him with all my heart. And I loved him and I gave everything that I own. But I never had the opportunity I never was tested if I would give my soul when I will be, would I give my soul for the truth, for God? And now he says to, I'm going back to the Yerushalmi, now he says to the man that is going to kill him, you think that I'm the victim here, and you came to kill me, and you're killing Judaism, and you will get rid of us. But actually, you are working in my film. You have worked all this up, and you made me, the time is exactly the time of the Shema, and you're going to let me, or make me able to actually live the verse, בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, at the same time. It's like a big code that Rabbi Akiva wants to do with his own life. Excuse me for the example, but it's like 3 oranges in Las Vegas. There are some things that that he believes, or he says to us, if I will do this in the right time, with the right words, and I will actually do it, it's not you winning, but I am the one that is coming out one from this story is me. So this is why I'm smiling. The time for reciting the Shema has arrived, and my mind has not wavered. You are torturing me, but I'm still intact, and I understand, and I can give my soul. It's not being taken from me. Of this I recite and smile. He hardly finished saying it when his soul ascended. So he died saying the Shema. I'm going forward some 300 years to the Bavli. The Bavli, the Talmud Bavli, the first one was the Jerusalem Talmud, which was edited in the 3rd century. And now I'm going to in Tiberias, that's why it's called Jerusalem Talmud. And now I'm going to the Babylonian Talmud in the 5th century. They say the same story that they have from Palestine, from Eretz Israel, but they make it a little different, and we will not study the whole text, but just notice a few things. One is that it begins with Besha'ah, the time frame of the time that Besha'ah שהוציאו את רבי עקיבא להרגה, the time when they took Rabbi Akiva to be killed, was the time of Kriyat Shema. And the storyteller says that understanding our reality, it looks like the time of our life, one thing happens, but actually, if you change your view, you are not the victim, you are the one that is making the story go forward. The important time is the time of Kriyat Shema. And they were, והיו סורקים את בשרו מסרגות של ברזל, while they combed his flesh with iron combs, he was accepting upon himself the kingship of heaven. היה מקבל על עצמו עול מלכות שמיים. Reciting the Shema already between the Jerusalem and the Babylonian Talmud becomes what a Jew says when he's receiving upon himself the עול מלכות שמיים, the kingship of heaven. And his disciples said to him, our teacher, even to this point, remember that in the Yerushalmi there were no disciples. He was all alone, him and the hangman. Suddenly the students come, and it's a little bit echoing another story that happened with the Romans, with a teacher that is killed with his students. Remember, yes? From your story, Christmas, and what was it that you ate? The disciples come, and it becomes a kind of a teaching, an educational moment. They ask him this far, and he explains to the students, and he says, all my days I've been troubled by this verse, with all thy soul, even if it takes thy soul. I said to myself, every day when he was looking in the mirror and seeing his eyes, he would say to himself, when shall I have the opportunity to fulfill this? Now that I have the opportunity, shall I not fulfill it? He prolonged the word echad. You know how Jews all over the world today, when they say Shema Israel, they say in the end, echad, because of this story. Because Rabbi Akiva flew or left this world and transcended on the word echad. In the Talmud, it means a lot. What is the last word that a person says? This is the word. The word is like a flying object that takes him up to the heavens. He prolonged the word echad until he expired while saying echad. A bat kol went forth and proclaimed, happy art thou, Akiba, that thy soul has departed with the word echad. So we understand it's a very sad story. It's a story of martyrdom, but Rabbi Akiva collides with the one while saying the word one, and everything becomes one. With all your heart, with all your soul, all your might, and a human being can only in this way unite or not be killed by others, but unite with the one. So I've been reading this story many times, reading it and studying it with people. But this summer, something new happened to me. I studied it with a group of Muslim clergy in Jerusalem. And I was a bit embarrassed to bring this story because it's a story that is very radical, about Jewish radicalism. Rabbi Akiva is very fierce here. And one of the clergy was an imam from America, a black man. And he said, why stories? What's so important about stories? Can't we learn the philosophy? And I said, a story that your mother used to tell you when you were little is something that would affect your life, all your life. And Rabbi Akiva is one of our heroes. And while we were studying, suddenly he stopped and he said, I want to tell you a story. And he told me the story of Bilal ibn Rabban. And he said that when his mother would feed him when he was a little girl, when he was a little boy, I think he grew up in America, she told the story of Bilal, who was a slave, an African slave, that found Islam and became a Muslim. But he was bought by a master that didn't like Islam and wanted him to change to his beliefs. And Bilal wouldn't change, and they would torture him, and they put a big rock. This is what he told me. They would make him lie on the hot desert, and they put a big rock on his body, and he yelled, Wahad, Wahad, Wahad. One. And I didn't know this story. And I thought that I'm telling the Rabbi Akiva story is something that will be so foreign to the Muslims. And suddenly I learned that they have a hero, Bilal, that after this happened, he was bought by another master, and Muhammad met him. And when they were looking for someone to call for prayer, they said, maybe we'll use a bell, but the Christians already have a bell. Maybe we'll use a horn, but the Jews already have a horn. We'll use human voice. And Muhammad looked at him and said, Bilal, you have a good voice. You'll be our first muazzin, the person that is calling people for prayer. And he was shocked because he was black and he was a slave, and he thought that he's not equal to everyone else. And Muhammad said, no, in Islam, everyone could be equal. And I learned that moment that I am so ignorant of Arabic and Islam. I live in Israel. We hear a lot of Arabic, but somehow we don't study enough. And I understand that while I feel at home in Hebrew, I feel at home in the Talmud. Rabbi Akiva is one of my heroes since I'm a little girl. This is home, but in the street or in the neighborhood, there's also Muslims who are kind of cousins of ours. There's also Arabic. And there are so many options of feeling not alienated and far away and as the enemy, but something so close, like Wahad and Echad, like Sulcha and Slicha and forgiveness. And I believe that if we will go towards peace with the option of Sulcha, which is an option of negotiating with pride, with honor, like you talked about gravitas, with something that sees the other, understands their culture also, appreciating their words, and the similarity of Echad and Wahad, and Slicha and Sulcha, and Salam and Shalom, and it's really so close that for me this is maybe the light in the darkness of the season, in the darkness of the time that we live in, and in the darkness of what happened to Rabbi Akiva. Now, there's a young artist that tried to make graphically a new language that she calls Aravrit, Aravit v'Ivrit, Aravrit. And she took the top of Arabic and the bottom of Hebrew, and I won't go in length, but you can understand it, and she tried to make it into one language. And I just want to say that if the time will come in the Middle East that we could all read and understand this language, but really understand, there will be some light. Thank you very much.